Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. My name is Sue Willard. I'm one of the Senior Associate Directors of Admissions at Hobart William Smith, and I'm really happy that all of you are able to join us tonight because we have the one and only Brandy Ferrara, who is the Executive Director of our Salisbury Center for Career Services. It is something as an alum that I wish we had when I was there as a student, because I was one of those people that didn't necessarily know what they wanted to do, and she and her staff do an incredible job of allowing your students to dive deeply into something that they might be interested in, and see if that's the career path they want to take. But also, if they don't know what they want to do, is helping them navigate that often frustrating and confusing path with grace, and really allowing them to take ownership of it, because we are very invested in making sure that our students have outcomes, and having those opportunities to apply themselves and build the soft skills that are going to make anyone want to admit them to a graduate school, a professional program, hire them for an internship or a job. And we're very proud of the work. They were named one of the top 25 career services offices in the country. So throughout the program tonight, if you do have a question, feel free to send that to me directly in the chat if you'd like, or you can send it to everyone in the chat. And Brandy will be speaking probably for around 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll offer time for questions at the end. So without further ado, Brandy, please take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Sue, and good evening, everybody. As Sue said, my name is Brandy Ferrara. Been with Hobart and William Smith in career services for 25 years now. And so I've had an opportunity to work with so many students and alums through my time, and obviously it's a passion of mine. Our work with students at HWS, I think, is a little unique in how we structure it. Through our Pathways program, we engage students starting their first year here. And I know that can sound intimidating for students when they're just getting to college and trying to figure things out, but we always tell them we don't expect them to have all the answers. They don't have to know career-wise what they want to be when they grow up, so to speak. But we're really here to help them, as Sue mentioned, sort of work on developing those soft skills, helping them with career exploration, so that come senior year, they're really ready to hit the ground running with some clarity and focus. Through our Pathways program, there are 4 components: assess, explore, experience, and connect. And all of our programming falls under that umbrella. With our first years in particular, we're going to engage with you early on in terms of outreach. And so I spoke in almost every first year seminar course, which every first year is in, and introducing students to career services. We use Handshake, which a lot of universities, colleges and universities use, but we're going to get your students in there active, showing them how to use that. That's where all the campus jobs are posted. So we're showing them how to find that, but also most importantly, showing them how to make appointments right through that app to meet with us. And so I actually work with our first year students. Coming in for that first time appointment can look like a lot of different things depending on where students are at. I might be having a conversation around career goals that they already have. Some students are coming to us with research or internship experiences, and they want to continue to leverage those. Other students are coming in, and I was one of these students, saying, I have no idea what I want to do. And how do I even begin to think about that? And so, for example, I had a first year today. She came in, I had met with her in the fall, and she's on the ski team. So she's finished up her season, and she's like, Brandy, I know we met in the fall and you told me a bunch of stuff, but I worked on my resume. I remember you said that, but now I don't know what I should be doing next. And I really I'm enjoying trying lots of classes, but I haven't settled in on anything yet. So we're doing a career assessment. And so that's one of the tools that we offer to our first year students, or all students, is a career assessment. This one is the Strong Interest Inventory. We have the Myers-Briggs MBTI. We have some other more informal tools that we use with students. But this will give us an opportunity to really give a nice foundation. I always tell students it's not a crystal ball, but it's a good starting point, giving us some language around interest areas. For some students, they're going to be like, oh, that makes total sense. I had been thinking about these areas. other students are like, wow, this is so cool. I didn't even know this was an occupation or career field that I might explore. So from there, using whether your students are coming in with some career ideas or we're using some career tools to help them arrive at that, the next step is that exploration piece. And I think we spend a lot of time, we have a great team in the Career Center really helping your students to explore career fields, whether it is through speakers that we have on campus. We've got a lot of virtual sessions, employer info sessions. We have our career programs in New York City, Washington, D.C., LA, Boston, over the winter break that your students can visit organizations with us and faculty members attend to. But I think really that the heart of it is I cannot say enough about our alum network. The HWS network we are using on a regular basis and connecting your students to have conversations around their careers. So they may not know what they want, but they could reach out and say, oh, you majored in philosophy. I really like philosophy. What could I do with that major? Or I want to go into a career in law. Can you tell me what your path looked like from HWS? And so we're making those connections on a daily basis for students and helping them with that exploration piece to hear firsthand what a day in the life is of a career is all about. From there, that exploration piece, we're then helping your students get experience. And so for some first years, they come in and say, I already know I want to work in that field. I want to start getting experience. I have a student that just came in today. She's from Buffalo. And she's like, I want to jump right in. I'm really interested in geology and I want an internship in that field. So we started reaching out. I was researching organizations, reaching out to places where she could potentially intern this summer and helping her make those connections. And I think that's the piece I really want to underscore is the personalized approach that we take with students. We have a database of opportunities through Handshake, right? I could have easily just said, oh, go into Handshake and see what you can find and then go and apply. But that's not how we're working with them, especially as first years and sophomores. We're really helping them develop their toolkit and gaining confidence in how to reach out to people. How do you reach out to an alum for networking? How do you do some research to find those opportunities? And so with that particular student, again, it was just doing a lot of outreach and emailing organizations to help them or to help her find where she could be looking, helping her find the application links and so on and so forth. We've got all kinds of opportunities for your students. A common question I get is, do I have to be in Geneva, New York to do an internship? And while I think every student should spend at least one summer in Geneva, New York, because it is amazing, no, we are working with you wherever you are going to be. So whether it is going home and wherever home is, it could be Buffalo, New York, it could be Los Angeles, California, it could be another country. We're going to help you with opportunities. We recognize that not all of those internship opportunities, though, or research opportunities are going to be paid. They might not be. You may have an unpaid opportunity. So I've got a student right now who wants to go into physical therapy and she has to get her PT hours in. And so working with hospitals, working with clinicians, those they're not going to pay you for that experience. So we have in our office guaranteed internship funding where we're providing students with an award of up to $3,000 for a summer internship, or excuse me, an internship, because it doesn't have to be during the summer, that is either paid or underpaid. So let's say that student from Buffalo, New York finds a great opportunity, but she wants to do something in Colorado that's sustainability focused. If the internship was paid, but she then had to pay for housing, airfare, travel, all of that, and by the time we look at a budget, if it's costing her money, we're going to consider that an underpaid internship. And so she would qualify for that funding as well. In addition to our domestic funding, we have funding to support our students to gain international experience as well. And so that funding is specific to, we have one fund that's for winter break, but the rest are for summer. And There's different funds, different donors have set up awards depending on what your students' interests are. So if you're interested in finance or quantitative fields, there's a fund specifically for that. If you want something more business focused in general, we've got up to 15 grand that we can give you for that. If you want to do something nonprofit focused in Asia, we've got $10,000 awards. And then we've got some other awards that are more Africa, Latin American focused. Amazing opportunities to help our students get experience. And I think that's a hallmark of HWS, is really helping provide access to those opportunities. The requirements for the funding are pretty simple. They're things that we want everybody doing, and they're listed on our website. It's, coming in, working with us, looking, having your resume looked at, doing a mock interview, things like that. They're pretty simple requirements. I always tell students you don't have to write a 90-page dissertation to obtain funding. So it's really making it accessible for all students to have that opportunity. But in addition, students may decide to use their funding while they're studying abroad, because that's another component of our college experience, is studying abroad. And some of those study abroad programs do have internships. If it has an internship, your student could also use their funding during that opportunity. So then they get $3,000 for an internship while they're abroad, which is really nice. Every student is guaranteed one award. And so I always tell students that it's really up to them to decide when they want to use it. They just have to be a returning student, so they can't be a graduating senior. All of these experiences, and so while we only provide one internship award, we are going to help students find as many internships or research opportunities as they want. We're going to work with them every semester and beyond. So we do provide lifetime services. And so it's, again, a lot of that outreach, building blocks of experiences to really help get those big internships junior year that hopefully lead to great return offers after graduation. But in addition to all we do to prepare them for the workforce, we also have staff members. We're helping them prepare for graduate or professional school. So I work with our pre-law students, and I have a faculty counterpart, Beth Kinney, and she is in American Studies, and she's got her JD, and she's doing more of the academic advising for students and really helping them with their applications when they're ready. And then we've got Scott McPhail in our office. Scott McPhail is the health professions advisor, and he has a faculty counterpart, Justin Miller, in biology. And so the two of them are really working hand in hand with our students starting the first year. And so with health professions in particular, Scott does a meeting the first week of classes where he gets everybody together and then helps them schedule appointments with him to meet individually so that he can learn more about each student's goals and talking about what the sequence of courses are and that sort of thing. Some students are going to also be interested in fellowship opportunities or competitive funding for scholarships for research. And so Scott is working with them like for Goldwater or for the Fulbright. He's also going to be monitoring students basically each semester, and he's going to invite students in for meetings with him to talk about what their interests are and plant seeds so that if they want to apply for a Fulbright, that they'll know what they need to do prior to their senior year, or if they want to look at a Goldwater for research opportunities, that he's going to help them and talk through what those experiences are and then work hand in hand with them on their applications. And so we are open 12 months a year. So we're open throughout the summer, and a lot of the work we do really continues on throughout the summer with your students. All of this is to help prepare them for what comes next after graduation. And so that time goes by quickly. And so we always say get engaged early on, sooner rather than later. But whenever they come in, I think we meet them where they're at. And so Sue and we had a previous boss, and one of his sayings was, you can't put toothpaste back in the tube. And so I use that often with students when they're coming in, right? Like could have, would have, should have, that's fine. Let's start where you're at right now. And so I think our whole team really has that approach of how can we best work with you now where you're at. And so it's a lot of personalized touch. If your student is one of those that didn't come in as a first year student, we're going to follow up with them as a sophomore. Hey, we didn't see you as a first year. Come on in. Here's the link to make an appointment. So if you ask students, I hope you make it to campus. But if you do ask students while you're on campus about our office, I'm sure they will roll their eyes at you and say, oh my gosh, they email us so much, because we make sure that they know of the programs that are coming up or opportunities through our alums. I just had an alum reach out to me. And through one of his friends, there's an opportunity with the Pentagon where a student can get security clearance for future opportunities. This really cool thing. And so we collected some resumes and he's helping to shepherd those through a friend he doesn't, the alum doesn't work for the Pentagon. So it's just amazing the connections and the opportunities that your students have at HWS.
All right. Thank you very much, Brandy. If anyone has a question, please, like I said, you can send it directly to me in the chat or send it to everyone in the chat. I think something I really appreciate about your office, Brandy, is that it is a very one-on-one approach. I don't work in career services, but I've been here quite a while and I know quite a few young alums, older alums. And what's always really heartwarming is whenever I reach out to somebody to say, can you talk to this student? Because a lot of times it's just talking to students about jobs. They never say no. And it's just connecting them and making sure that our students get a chance to have that resume looked at, understanding what their skill set is. And I mean, you even have a closet in career services where if people need clothes for an interview, professional clothes for an interview, a space to interview. So there's no detail that is gone unnoticed or underappreciated. But
Yeah.
we do have a question. Is it possible to pursue a career in strength and conditioning or fitness training?
Absolutely. And so with that would fall under our health professions umbrella. And so Scott would be the person to really work with your student on that, and helping to get those hours. So we have a lot of practitioners right in the Geneva community where your student could get some of those clinical hours, and then we would work with them for getting those hours while they're at home as well that they may need to be accepted into a program, because they would have to go on for a master's degree to get a degree in that.
I think the other really nice thing, and I'm not sure if you mentioned it, Brandy, is it is lifetime service with career
Yes,
services.
yes,
So yeah,
forever.
why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you have some fun stories about that. Because here's the thing, students might, take a gap year after graduating and go to medical school after that. So is career services still going to be there for them? Or maybe they do a career for a year and they're like, not for me. So Brandy, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so absolutely lifetime services. So for the students who are taking, even if they're just taking the summer off and want to pursue a job search when they get back, or students who are in grad school. So we had a student who got into Harvard architecture program. She was graduating and she called the office over the summer and I was talking with her. She's like, hey, Brandy, I'm graduating. Can you help connect me with alums that are in my field in the Boston area? I really want to stay in this area. And so I'm going through and giving her names and making introductions for her. And I was talking with her. I was like, as we're talking through all this, not for nothing, but have you gone to Harvard's Career Center? And she just gasped and started laughing. She goes, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about it. And so I was so very flattered and then wanted to, smack her upside her head and say, we talk about networking and using all of your resources. But she's like, I didn't even think about it. Like, it's just HWS. We just push it out so much. It's part of the culture of who we are. But if your student decides they want to go to graduate school down the road, that, you've entered the workforce and you're thinking, okay, now I want to go back to grad school, we're here to help you with that too. It doesn't matter if you have just retired from the NFL or you are pursuing a career, trying to advance in your career path, we are here to help you. And so um, it's always fun to hear from alums and help them and advance in their careers. And then there's always that thought of like paying it forward. So to Sue's point, alums never say no when you ask them to connect with people. They're forwarding opportunities. They're helping to prep our students for interviews. And I should talk about our structure. We're structured into teams. So your student will have a career counselor and an employer developer that they're working with hand in hand. So the career counselor is really doing the coaching components, resume, cover letter, interview prep. And then the employer developer is working on the opportunities, helping your student to find the right opportunities, and then helping them to leverage our alum network, finding who do we have at IBM, who's at Meta that our students can be talking to as they're applying for these opportunities, and prepping them, or who on Wall Street. When I think of that network, it's just so powerful of the alums in finance that are really helping them prepare for those super days.
It was really fun. We do have another question, but it was really fun. One of our students in admissions, international students from Serbia, took part in the New York City finance trip in January, and she was all excited when she came back. She had all these names of alums to reach out to, and she reached out to an alum that I know very well, and then that alum connected her with two or three other alums, and just being able to make, those connections and understand what different aspects of finance are all about. So, and I think that's the big thing. And there's lots of careers out there that don't have a major or minor attached to them. We
Correct.
have alums that work in sports production. We don't have that as a major, but they've interned at ESPN. They work now at ESPN. They worked at interned at HBO Sports. So there's all these opportunities, and it's just how do we get you in? But the next question, Brandy, is regarding those career treks, so to speak. So the question is, can you talk more about the different career programs in different cities that you mentioned? My
Mhm.
student is interested in the film industry, so the LA Center sounds interesting. Thank you.
Yes, that is one of that one I get to lead, and I love being in LA in January when it's nice and warm out there. And so the for entertainment industry in particular, we've got our behind the scenes career track, and that one alternates between Los Angeles and New York City each year. We go back and forth. And so when we're in LA, we are going to film studios. We have an alum at Netflix we went and saw. We get on television sets. So Brad Falchuk, who's done Glee, is probably none of the students on here will know what Glee is anymore, but American Horror Story, that's his. And so he gets us onto television sets so students can see what it takes to make a television show, and then they get to see it air, months later on TV, which is really cool. But then we've got alums like Warren Littlefield, who is a writer, or excuse me, a producer, director, and he did Fargo. He did oh gosh, Handmaid's Tale. So he's done a lot of amazing things. And prior to that, he was part of Must See TV at NBC. So Friends, ER, all of those great shows all came under Warren's leadership. And so students are meeting these alums. They're talking. We have a whole panel we do with writers who have done movies, television, they're meeting with producers, they're meeting with people at like CAA, Creative Artist Agency, and other on the talent side, and really learning about the different career fields and what it takes to get into that, but also building their network to help them get leverage opportunities out there. And that's true so New York City, we have, like I said, the communications, that behind the scenes program we offer in New York. That's more television and news, as you can imagine. More film is made out in LA. But we do more of the film, television. We went to the Drew Barrymore set went and watched her tape a show, but people came over, they got to see more of the behind the scenes pieces of making the show. And we do a lot of digital media. But in addition, we have our finance career trek, which Sue talked about a little bit, and that is a few days. It's usually 3 to 4 days in New York City, and they're going to all the big banks. They're going to JP Morgan. They're going to let's see, they go to Credit Suisse, now with all the mergers, I'm trying to think of where they all fall, like HSBC, Bank of America. We've gone to all those. They go to Standard S&P. They go to some of more of like the financial services side. They're going to some of the private equity firms, and they're hearing again from alums along the way. So that network of people was a list of 80 people that they connected with throughout their time in the city. And so they're really hearing firsthand about, if you want to go into investment banking, what does that take? What does your GPA need to look like? What kinds of classes should you be taking? What are they looking for? And then we have our Day on the Hill program, which is actually a couple of days down in DC. And students are hearing again from panels of alums. We're in Cannon House one day where alums are coming in and out. And then we're doing site visits the next day, going to all sorts of organizations. They've done Secret Service, FBI. They've done the White House and talked to alums. We had an alum working at the White House. They're hearing from people on the Hill. They're learning about lobbying. So all these different careers that they're being exposed to, but also getting to experience the cities. So many of the students that go on these trips have never been to Washington, D.C. So they get to see, do I even see myself living here or out in LA? You know, I have a lot of students from New York City that do the LA program, and they're like, well, where's the subway? How do you get around? Say, you know, you're stuck in traffic. And so it's eye-opening. It's a great experience to see, can I see myself here beyond just meeting with, you know, the career components of that. We also do a more general communication. So for students interested in like PR, advertising, social media oriented careers, we've got a program for that. We've done law, we've had environment, we've done one around more research oriented in Boston. We've had finance in Boston. So we try to rotate some of those programs just to keep everything fresh, but you can always count on every year finance, behind the scenes, and Day on the Hill. And then the other ones alternate in between. So, but they're a great way for students to see, you know, even in finance, do I want to work in this big bank? Do I see myself at JP Morgan? Do I feel more like I fit in the culture of Bank of America? Like they all feel different.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandy. We have another question, but before I do that, I'm actually going to put in the chat to everyone a link to the playlist for all of the virtual sessions that we have, because we know that you're not able to see all of them in real time, so you can peruse them at your leisure. But there is a question about the LEAP program with Cornell Law School, and I think it's really fantastic because we do have students that are in that. We had 3 students admitted into the cohort this year, and they're all different majors and minors here and all studying different types of law. But can you talk more about the LEAP program for Cornell and the requirements and details just in general?
Sure, absolutely. So that's another one where Professor Kinney and I will have a meeting in the fall with students who are interested in this to talk through what the requirements are. They have to have their major completed by the end of their junior year. All right, and so you can transfer credits in, you can get your major done and your goals. All right, so graduation requirement goals have to be done by the end of the junior year. You do not have to have a minor. Your first year of law school is actually transfers back to HWS. The credits transfer back to complete your degree. So if you're entering in this incoming cohort of students, you'll still graduate with the students that you started with, because you'll come back after your first year of college or of law school to walk. Students do have to take the LSAT. So they would take that the summer before their junior year typically, or the winter break. And so other than that, it's really the same requirements, right? They do waive the application fee for our students. You've got to have a strong GPA and solid recommendations, and then your LSAT score, but it takes a year off of law school, which is an amazing opportunity. And so for some students, they're really eager to jumpstart their law school education. And so we had, like Sue said, we had 3 students this past year apply and were accepted into the program. I know a lot of people say, well, how many slots are there? There's no set amount. So it's really, Cornell wants great students. And so they're looking at all of them. We're not limited in number.
Thank you. And there is a question, I can touch on this a little bit, and Brandy, if you want to, as well as with internships, but we have someone who is interested in architecture and just talking about that in our architecture program.
Yeah.
Our architecture program is really a standout program here. We have three professional architects that are actually faculty, and it's really a design-based program. They're learning skills and able to grow in ways as an artist and architect and think about not just the building but the space and how it's being used. But also students that are architectural studies students, they'll go into graphic design, they'll go into interior design, industrial design, historic preservation. They'll go into traditional architecture, landscape architecture, which is what Amanda did at Harvard. So there's lots of different ways. One of the last courses that they take here is actually creating their own portfolio, which is something that usually only graduate students do. We have a 100% acceptance rate into graduate school in Harvard, Penn, Washington University, and St. Louis. So you have students at all those. Students I know, one of my students that I know graduated was working in San Francisco in historic preservation, and then she was hired on by Google as a designer. So there are lots of ways to do this. We aren't a 5-year BArch program. We are a 4-year program. But the design element, understanding the design process is very unique to what our students do. But Brandy, can you speak to internships that some of our architectural studies students have received recently?
Yeah, sure. So like Sue said, they're interested in all different types of things. So historic preservation tends to be really popular, but also more residential architecture. So I've actually got an alum coming up to speak in the spring, and he's got a firm in Connecticut and hires interns every summer. And so he's coming up to recruit his next batch of interns for this summer opportunity in Connecticut. But we have opportunities across the country. Some are interested more in urban design. So looking at, like, even in Geneva, the Business Improvement District has taken them to work with them more on the city planning side of things. I've got a student who's doing interior design this summer. I've got another that's doing more furniture design. They go into so many different aspects. And so it's really what are students interested in. So a lot of sustainability, eco-friendly design is another big one, green architecture. I actually had a student do an international internship in green architecture. He went to Copenhagen, went back to Denmark. He had studied abroad there and then spent a summer there really focusing on green architecture and meeting their communities and how they're set up and how they're able to have these sustainable communities and what it takes. So he spent a whole summer learning that. I had another architecture student in Italy focusing on design there.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time tonight, Brandy. Appreciate everyone's time tonight listening to what she has to say, because it's important for all of our students to have an amazing experience. But at the same time, we're very interested in outcomes and helping them discover what their outcome might be, but also understanding those soft skills and pivoting when they want to pivot for a career and being there for them. And just mentoring and helping them along the way, which is really important. So everybody needs that champion. But Brandy, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hopefully all of you enjoyed tonight's program. If there are any questions or concerns after this, Brandy put her email in the chat. I'm putting my email as well. So please reach out with any questions or if you'd like to be connected with anyone. But all the best. Congratulations. You've gotten to this point. But all the best to all of you. Hopefully we'll see you on campus for an admitted student day or off campus for an off campus celebration. But thank you very much and enjoy the evening.